Creating a multi-tiered system of behavioral support. The mission of the Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistant Network is to support the efforts and initiatives of the Bureau of Special Education and to build the capacity of local educational agencies to serve students who receive special education services. Our goal for each child is to ensure individualized education program teams begin with the general education setting with the use of supplementary aids and services before considering a more restrictive environment. A major component of every AEDY application is the development of a program that reflects and includes the essential components of an evidence-based tiered prevention and intervention model that utilizes a non-exclusionary behavior framework. The direct language from the application states, all AEDY programs must implement a multi-tiered system of support utilizing evidence-based positive behavioral supports. Additionally, the LEA must ensure AEDY programs offer universal positive behavioral supports and that all students have a clear understanding of rules and expectations. What does this mean? This webinar will provide direction on each section of this requirement. PDE emphasizes use of evidence-based interventions and activities in districts and programs to drive better outcomes for students. The term evidence-based is used to define the nature of actions permitted or required of programs and districts. ESSA's definition of evidence-based interventions includes two categories based on levels of evidence. Category 1 demonstrates a statistical significant effect on improving student outcomes or other relevant outcomes, or Category 2 demonstrates a rationale based on high-quality research or positive evaluation that such activity, strategy, or intervention is likely to improve student outcomes or other relevant outcomes, and includes ongoing efforts to examine the effects of such activity, strategy, or intervention. Under Category 1, the definition refers to an activity, strategy, or intervention that demonstrates a statistical significant effect on improving student outcomes or other relevant outcomes based on strong evidence, moderate evidence, or promising evidence. Strong evidence is based on at least one well-designed and well-implemented experimental study. Moderate evidence is based on at least one well-designed and well-implemented quasi-experimental study, and promising evidence is based on at least one well-designed and well-implemented correlational study with statistical controls for selection bias. Teams can find examples of evidence-based interventions and practices at these websites. PDE's website, www.education.pa.gov, the What Works Clearinghouse, www.ies.ed.gov, or the Visible Learning website, www.visible-learning.org. It's not enough to select an evidence-based program or intervention. The district or program must also develop a plan to address fidelity of implementation and to monitor outcomes. When districts and programs prepare to implement evidence-based interventions, they will need to become familiar with the definition and levels of evidence for interventions, choose evidence-based interventions and programs that match their needs, resources, and contexts, increase the knowledge and skills of staff in preparation for implementation of an intervention, including school readiness for the intervention. Effectively support implementation of the interventions during its phases, so it is fully implemented with fidelity. And finally, monitor and evaluate the implementation and its outcomes throughout its stages and phases. A multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS, is synonymous with the phrase tiered prevention and intervention. MTSS is being used more frequently in an attempt to meet the educational and behavioral needs of all students. The MTSS framework is designed to provide educational equity of all students. MTSS includes 3 levels or tiers of instruction. The tier prevention logic emphasizes the following guiding principles. All members of an organization, for example, public school or alternative program, should experience an effective and relevant foundation of social and behavioral support in all settings that emphasizes arrangement of high-quality teaching and learning environments by directly and explicitly teaching social skills, monitoring their use, providing opportunities to practice in applied settings, giving specific and contingent encouragement and recognition when they are used. Implementing the framework across the whole school is another aspect of MTSS. Enhancing the school culture of a classroom or school requires all students and staff members to participate in the implementation process. As a whole school approach, the PBIS framework, or its equivalent, is implemented by individuals within classroom and non-classroom settings. MTSS includes 3 tiers of instruction. Each tier should include a set of evidence-based practices, programs, or interventions designed to meet the instructional goals of the LEA. The purpose of Universal or Tier 1 is preventing the development of new cases or incidences of problem behaviors by implementing high-quality learning environments for all students and staff across all settings. Supports describe the instructional practices that are designed to help all students in a school. An example of universal supports includes school-wide rules and expectations, procedures, acknowledgement systems, and the academic curriculum. Once universal supports are in place, staff using assessment data gathered through universal screeners to determine which students are in need of more intensive instructions and support. Research indicates that between 80 and 90% of the student population's needs should be met through the universal program. Tier 2 is designed to provide more intensive instruction and interventions for students who are identified as at risk. Interventions are designed to be efficient and can either be delivered within the classroom setting or within a small group setting. Tier 3 is designed to provide interventions and support at a high intensity and/or high frequency to reduce the intensity or complexity of existing cases of problem behavior that are resistant to and are unlikely to be addressed by primary and secondary intervention. Interventions are based on the needs of individual students and are often implemented by staff with the most specialized skill sets. Staff use progress monitoring for students that need additional support within tiers 2 and 3. Students are assessed more frequently with tools that match their instruction. Data are reviewed bi-weekly by staff in order to determine progress and adjust instruction as needed within a timely manner. A multi-tiered system of support framework must be designed so as to provide educational equity for all students. Remember that a program's Tier 1 or universal program is designed to be preventative and should include a plan that supports positive academic, behavioral, and social-emotional outcomes with all students in mind. AEDY programs should include preventative supports within a universal system of behavioral processes and procedures. Some of these essential components include prevention focused on disrupting the emergence of additional behavioral, academic, or social-emotional concerns, which may interfere with academic success and are associated with negative short and long-term outcomes. For example, each student at the AEDY program receives positive action as a SEL curriculum at Tier 1, and at Tier 2, in addition to positive action, students may receive small group interventions with a counselor around a specific area of need, such as anger management, At Tier 3, layering across Tiers 1 and 2, a student may also engage in individualized interventions that are more specific to their area of need. AEDY programs should include preventative supports within a universal system of behavioral processes and procedures. Despite students typically receiving AEDY support once they've reached intensive levels of behavioral concern, an AEDY's form of Universal Tier 1 would still require positive behavioral practices for each student, as well as the ability to intensify supports to match their needs. Planning for academic instruction is integral in the prevention of student behavior errors. Research has shown that there is a connection between academic instruction and student behavior. McIntosh and Goodman cite research that has found that behavior challenges reduce access to instruction, and an inadequate response to academic intervention leads to behavior challenges. Therefore, academic instruction should include a universally designed curriculum that is differentiated, culturally and linguistically responsive, and aligned to grade level content standards. Additional components include universal screening for academics and behavior, social-emotional instruction, utilizing a set of school-wide positive expectations and behaviors that are defined and taught, procedures for establishing classroom expectations and routines that are consistent with school-wide expectations are also developed. 80% of an organization's effort should be spent engaged in activities and practices designed to prevent behavior errors before they occur. Along with planning a robust and responsive academic program, additional components of the MTSS behavioral framework are designed and implemented to support student behavior within the classroom and non-classroom settings. Additional components that are part of Universal Tier 1 include a continuum of procedures for encouraging expected behavior, a continuum of procedures for discouraging problem behavior, as well as procedures for encouraging positive school-family partnerships. The collection and review of data is at the center of the MTSS framework. Data can be gathered on an ongoing basis through the development of a behavior referral form that allows for the documentation of both minor and major behaviors. Minor behaviors refer to behaviors that occur inconsistently and at a level that allows instruction to continue within the classroom setting. Responses to minor behaviors are handled by the classroom teacher. Major behaviors occur more frequently, are so disruptive in nature that instruction cannot continue. These behaviors are typically handled by an administrator. It is important that both types of behaviors are documented for the purposes of problem identification and intervention development. Implementation of evidence-based practices and systems are guided, coordinated, and administered by a local team comprised of representation from leadership, stakeholders, implementers, consumers, and content experts. This team is responsible for ensuring high implementation fidelity, management of resources, and database decision-making. Performance and progress of all students is reviewed on a frequent and regular schedule in order to identify the adequacy of growth trends, student responsiveness, fidelity of support implementation, and the need for adaptations or modifications in supports. When developing your leadership team, the leadership team should include active administrator participation, an efficient routine, schedule, and structure for conducting efficient team meetings, and a commitment statement for establishing a positive school-wide culture. In addition, the leadership team utilizes procedures for ongoing data-based monitoring, evaluation, and dissemination of data, procedures for selection, training, and coaching of new personnel, and procedures for the evaluation of personnel related to the framework implementation. Implementation of evidence-based practice systems and associated database decision-making are adapted to the context of the local culture, such that characteristics and cultural learning histories of stakeholders, implementers, and consumers are embedded in a comprehensive and authentic manner. The influences of individual or group perspective, bias, and/or beliefs on actions and decision-making are highlighted. It is expected that approximately 80 to 90% of the student population will have all their needs met from the universal program. However, students identified as needing additional support or an intensification of instruction can have their needs met through Tier 2 and/or Tier 3 supports. MTSS is not a gated system and does not require that students move through each tier. Instead, data are used to identify students' needs and interventions so that they can be applied and monitored quickly and efficiently. Tier 2, or secondary intervention, includes students continuing to experience all Tier 1 practices, increased instruction and practice with self-regulation and social skills, increased adult support, increased opportunity for positive reinforcement, increased antecedent manipulation such as pre-correction, increased precision to minimize rewards for problem behavior, and an increased access to academic support. Additionally, students needing more intense individualized supports can have their needs met at Tier 3. Students receiving Tier 3 supports continue to receive supports from Tier 1 and Tier 2. In addition to a comprehensive function-based assessment, including functional behavioral assessment, individualized plan of support that includes strategies for prevention, teaching, positive reinforcement, controlled reduction of natural rewards for problem behavior, and safety. Wraparound supports and culturally responsive, person-centered planning that actively involves the family and community supports and resources are also used. A multidisciplinary intervention team with a coordinator and a member with behavioral expertise provides support to students at Tiers 2 and 3. This team will include parents for students receiving Tier 3 supports. A formal process for data collection related to implementation fidelity and student outcomes is developed to assist in determining student success or the need for more intensive support. There are resources available to support teams. PDE-funded training and technical assistance on how to build the infrastructure of a multi-tiered system of support is available by contacting your local PaTTAN office or intermediate unit.